welcome everybody that's here in person, you long weekend Christians. Way to go. Or people that aren't Christians and you're here on a long weekend, what are you doing? I don't know, but we're so glad you're here. No, so glad you're here. And everybody watching online, so glad that you decided to tune in. My name's Pete, and we're beginning a new series this morning called Friendology, which is about the theology of friendships, with the hope that throughout this series, it'll be 3 weeks long, that you will just reflect on your own life and your own friendships and how you are being a friend to other people, and that hopefully through this series you'll get some ideas and a vision for how you can have better friendships in your life. And so whenever I'm beginning a new topic, I think, do I need to define the topic? Do I need to define it, or do you just know what friends are? How many of you need, do you know when I just say, we're gonna talk about friendship, you're like, good, let's go. Probably most of you, but I have a couple quick definitions, okay? Just indulge me, really simple, just in case you're like, friendship, never heard of it. Been online for 2 years, tell me more. Okay, really simple definitions from the Encyclopedia Britannica. A state of enduring affection, esteem, intimacy, and trust between two people. Two people care for each other, intimate with one another, trust between two people. Tim Keller, who has a wonderful pastor, wrote many books. He wrote a book on marriage, and a part of his book on marriage, he talks about friendship, because in case you didn't know, you should be friends with the person you married. Good marriage tip. Just throw that in there. Friend, all this friend stuff applies to marriage, just in case. Okay, here we go. He writes this, and I love what he says, just really simple about friendship. There are two features of real friendship: constancy and transparency. Real friends always let you in, and they never let you down. And that last sentence, I think, is a good one for us to grab hold of. Real friends always let you in, and they never let you down. Real friends. And you hear that song, You've Got a Friend in Me. Do you think about the friends that you have? How many of you, when you think about friends this morning, the state of your friendships, you're like, never been better. Just went through a 2-year-long pandemic and never had better friends in my life. How many? Probably not as many of us feel like, oh, some hands, good. Never been better. Okay, you can go ahead and serve in the children's ministry. The rest of us, me in here, learning how to have better friendships. When I think about friendships, I think about people that know me better than anyone else. And this is one of the perks of friendships. When you have friends that know you better than even you know yourself. And one thing that people who know me well eventually they sniff this out. And they would describe it this way. I would not say this about myself, but they would say this, is that Pete's not very much fun. Pete doesn't like to do a lot of fun things. He's kind of boring. He's not adventurous. Now, I would describe that as being content in the Lord. I don't need a lot of bells and whistles on my life. I'm so happy in my life. I have all the things I need, I have. But my friends notice he is very boring. He doesn't like to do many things. And so what they've realized over the years is that in order to get me to do things with them, they have to lie to me. They have to lie to me, they have to tell me that we're doing something that we always do, and then just drag me into doing something else. And then at the end of it, I go, that was amazing. And they go, yes, exactly, you should want to do these things. I'm like, I don't know, we probably didn't need to do it anyways. So one of the times that this happened to me in my life was for my bachelor party. My friends, they had this elaborate plan to bring me to New York City. And they realized if we tell him, he's not gonna wanna go. So we'll just bring him. But in order to bring someone to New York City who lives in Canada, they need a passport. And I don't have a passport because I'm not fun. So I don't need a passport because only fun people need passports to go do fun things. So they had to trick me into getting a passport, which they also failed to do because there was no reason that they could convince me that I would ever need a passport. And so they eventually had to tell me that I needed to get a passport because they're going to bring me to New York. And so they brought me to New York. We spent it was 48 hours. We didn't sleep. They had to one guy borrowed his neighbor's van. Another guy knew somebody in New York that we could sleep on the floor of his apartment for just a couple hours just to try to make it through the whole thing. But it was amazing. It was one of the best times in my life. And I would have never chosen to do that or said yes to doing that. But my friends dragged me there. And when I think about that, I think, man, those are some great friends that I have. And I want, as we go through this series, for you to think of similar moments in your life. Hopefully you don't have to go back too far, but maybe you can go back to childhood, high school, a friend that you had at a job, maybe a friend that you have now, and think about I want more of that. That's kind of my hope, is that as we talk about friendship, you'll think about friends, and you'll think, I want more of this. Like there's a longing. I want to go deeper with the friends that I have. But the sad state of friendship in our culture is that it's not doing so well. And so I wanted to show you some statistics that have recently come out from a survey that was done in 2021. The May 2021 American, so this is America, they do a lot of surveys over there, and sometimes we have to just adopt the stats that they find and kind of assume that we're in very similar parallel cultures. But the American Perspective Survey finds that Americans report having fewer close friendships than they once did, talking to their friends less often, and relying less on their friends for personal support. So friendship from this survey, not doing so well. They did, part of the survey, they talked about best friends and how many people talked about their best friends. In 1990, which was 32 years ago. Not 10 years. Feels like 10 years, right? Feels like 1990. 32 years ago, 75% of people had a best friend. In 2021, 59% had a best friend. They asked about close friends. In 1990, 3% of people would say they had no close friends. 7% would say I have one or no best friends. In 2021, the 3% has jumped to 12%. 12% of people, more than 1 in 10 people would say I have no close friends. And almost 20%, 1 in 5, would say I have maybe one close friend or no close friends. We live in a culture where it seems statistically, and maybe you feel this also, I feel it, where friendship is on the decline. And there may be a couple culprits, a couple reasons why this is, a couple ways that we can speculate. One of them is that we live in a more mobile culture than ever before. People move more often. And so you try to build friendships, but then you move or they move, or there's a lot of moving going around. There's also, we work more than ever. And so we have less time for friendships than ever before. But I think one of the biggest culprits, one of the biggest reasons for the decline in friendships is actually technology. Technology. That we have more devices, more screens, more options for distraction and entertainment than ever before. And this is slowly eroding our desire for friendship. A great book that I would recommend any of you to read is a book called Alone Together. And it's written by an author named Sherry Turkle. And the subtitle is Why We're Expecting More from Technology and Less from Humans. Alone together. That we're kind of together, we're kind of connected, but we're actually alone. And in this book, she explores like our growing relationship with technology and our waning relationships with one another as humans. And one part of the book, she talks about this other author, and his name's David Levy. And David Levy writes about robots, and he's big on robots. He's like, robots are the future. We're gonna love our robot relationships, to the point where in 2050, he thinks it will be normal that lots of people will be married to robots, happily married to robots. So just think, so there's this guy, David Levy, he's big on robots. He's like, we need these robots. Like, robots are a good thing, better relationships, less risk, it's a good thing. And so here's an example of something that Sherry Turkle quotes in her book that he writes in his book. Only one criterion for judging the worth of robots in even the most intimate domains. Does being with a robot make you feel better? He's like, there's only one thing that matters when it comes to like our relationship with robots. How do they make you feel? When you're with your robot, do you feel better? Well, then good, it's a great thing. She has more questions though. She asks questions like, what if relating to robots makes us feel good or feel better simply because we feel more in control? What if the robot relationship, yeah, sure, it makes you feel better, but only because you're in more control? Is that a good thing? Is it a good thing that us humans are always in full control? I don't know, I don't think so. She goes on to say this. By celebrating relationships with robots, we're celebrating an emotional dumbing down, a willful turning away from the complexities of human partnerships. We are celebrating an emotional dumbing down, a willful turning away from the complexities of human partnerships. Because relationships with humans, friendships, are complex and they're messy. She talks about an interview that she had with a young woman who gladly said, like, I would gladly trade in my boyfriend for a robot if the robot could give me the illusion of caring for me. She recognizes that it would be an illusion, that clearly the robot doesn't actually care, the robot doesn't have feelings, but if it could create that illusion, she would gladly trade it in. Because who needs a boyfriend that could cheat on you? Or where there would be moments where you wondered if he cared for you. Give me a robot that I can fully control and never have any doubts about. She tells a story about interviewing an older woman who had been lonely. And so she had been given this robot, this like baby seal looking robot. And the robot helped her feel not as lonely. And so it seemed like this was a good thing for this older woman. But as Sherry Turkle reflected on this interview, she said she couldn't help but feel like we, as like a human community, had let her down. That the best that we could give to this older, lonely woman was, here's a robot, I ain't got time for you. Interesting observations. Makes another observation, another interview with a young man who said, like, robot friends are so much better because I don't have to listen to all the things that they want to tell me. I can just tell them exactly what I want to tell them. And when I'm tired and don't have any more energy for them, I can just put them away. Robot friends are so much better. Subtext, because I'm in full control and because I don't have to take any risks with them and because they don't take any more energy than I want to give them. This is the truth about friendships, about human relationships. They are risky and they take energy. I was rudely awoken to this past weekend when many of you maybe have had this happen this past weekend. You spent time with family. And sometimes time with family is greatly aided by liquid beverages, but other times by a little robot friend in your pocket. Because you could be in a conversation and you'd be like, I don't know if I have any more energy to keep talking to this person. And so you just pull out your little robot friend. Oh, look at this. Look at what other people are doing. I have a message from Paul. I wonder what's going on. I have emails. There's things to do, right? This can help when you're with people that I don't know if I can sustain a conversation for hours with these people. Anybody? Maybe you're with your family right now. You don't want to acknowledge it. It's okay. I was rudely awoken to how much I need my tiny robot friend in my pocket because I was brought to a time where with my family by the beach for about 8 hours where there was no internet. No, there's no Wi-Fi, the cell towers weren't close enough. And I wasn't told this ahead of time. I was told this as we were driving there and I lost reception and I was like, what's going on? Oh, there's no internet here. There's no internet here? Well, how long are we gonna be? 8 hours? 8 hours with other people and no internet? What is going to happen? And so I found myself, like I could have a little conversation and then I'd find like, well, I don't know, this seems like the end of the conversation. What do we do now? This is the part where I'd normally pull up my phone. And so even after being there for hours, I would still just pull up my phone, even though there was nothing on it to come up. I knew there was nothing new, like everything was dead on it. I'm like, I'll just pretend, oh, that was very nice. I just gotta pull this out, I gotta check things, because I'm important, there's important things happening over here. And I would look at nothing. And maybe that's part introvert, but maybe it's a part of the revelation of the difficulty of human relationships and the solace and the numbing and the distraction that our tiny robot friends in our pockets can offer us. And so when we talk about wanting to have better relationships, have better friendships, be better friends, I think that we have to acknowledge that especially in our technologically savvy age, we have to be really intentional. We have to be really intentional. Great friendships will not just happen on their own. We have to be intentional. And so this morning I have 3 decisions that I think you have to make. 3 decisions that you have to make in order to have great friendships. 3 decisions. Here's the first one. It's like a question. Do you believe that you need friends? Do you actually believe that you need friends? That you need other people? Or is there a certain selection of things, distractions, entertainment, food, that if I had an island and I had all these things, I actually don't need friends? Do you actually believe that you need friends? In one of our creation accounts in the book of Genesis, we find a really interesting little tidbit. God creates and everything is good. And he creates a man. And the first man, there's this remarkable thing that is said about this first man, is that he was lonely. And so it says that it was not good for man to be alone. Isn't that interesting? God creates everything and everything is good and beautiful. And yet there's this observation there. Actually, there's one thing that wasn't good about this, is that the man was alone. And then this comment that it's actually not good for humans to be alone. And then God goes through this search of everything that he created, and he like brings it before this first man. He's like, will this cure your loneliness? Will this cure your loneliness? He like parades all of the animals in front of this man to say like, maybe this animal, an elephant, will that cure your loneliness? A dog, come on, a dog's gonna do it. This dog is so cute, come on, this dog will cure your loneliness. None of it would cure his loneliness. And so God creates the woman to be with the man. And many have commented that, yes, we could look at this as the first marriage relationship, but it is also a comment on the need, just the basic need that we humans have for other humans, the need that we have for friendship. And when I thought about this image of like God parading the animals before this first man, trying to cure his loneliness, and that nothing would do it except for another human, I thought that's kind of like, there's a metaphor there that is parallel to our experience in our digital age, that we are paraded before us, endless options for distraction, endless options of entertainment, maybe Netflix, not Netflix. What about Crave? What about Disney Plus? What about this new thing? What about this theme park? All these options, maybe these things will cure your loneliness. And after trying all of them, at night, sometimes when our head hits the pillow, we realize these things ain't doing it. I still like there's an ache within me. There's a loneliness within me. And that loneliness, the Bible says, isn't just for God. It's because we need other people. So decision number one, do you believe that you actually need friends? I think that our need for other people is also a reflection of just who we were created to be as image bearers. God as a community of love, God exists as a community. And so we were created to be like him and to reflect what he is like. And so it would make sense that we also need communities. I found a great quote online written by Nathaniel Peters. And he writes this. He says, the 12th century, I struggle with this word all morning, it's Cistercian. This part is it makes no sense. Cistercian. This is meaningless. You don't need to remember that. That's just my own challenge this morning. I failed both times. It's okay. This abbot, okay, he's a monk, Alred of Rivaux, is best known for his treatise on spiritual friendship. So it's about spiritual friendship, which makes a unique argument in the history of Christian theology. It says this, since God himself is a community of persons, human friendship is an act whereby we especially imitate God, a relationship in which we are conformed to his likeness by learning to love as he loves. Through our friendships with other people, we can become friends with the God who is friendship itself. Isn't that interesting? So we don't just need other people like from like an emotional sense. We need other people to like fulfill our purpose, to be who we were created to be. To experience like the love and to become friends with the God who is friendship himself. Like it goes deeper than just, I could use some people that I care for and they care for me. It's much deeper than that. It's like embedded into the whole created order that we would experience friendship and community as a reflection of the God who is friendship and community himself. So decision number one, do you actually believe that you need other people? Decision number two, do you believe that physical presence is the ultimate? Or said another way, do you believe that physical presence is irreplaceable? Yes, people watching online, technology is good. Technology has lots of amazing things that we can do with technology, but it is not the ultimate experience. Do you believe that physical presence is the ultimate experience and is irreplaceable? I think that the biblical authors, simply by writing the Bible and the books of the Bible that they write, actually affirm this idea. They affirm this idea, one, because they used technology, the technology that they had, the ability to write letters and books. They used that technology to reach people, to take ideas and be able to move them from a time and place to another time and place. They used the technology that they had, and it was a good thing. The Bible, the documents that they created, the communities that were formed because of these documents were good things. Technology is a good thing, and yet these same writers in their writing talk about how there is something that is even better than just experiencing the technology, the writing. That there is nothing that can replace the face-to-face interaction that we have. Just a couple of examples to show you where we see this. In Paul's letter to the church in Thessalonica, he says this, "But brothers and sisters, when we were orphaned by being separated from you for a short time, in person, not in thought, out of our intense longing, we made every effort to see you." We had you in mind. We could write this letter to you, but we still made every effort because we had this longing, this intense longing to see you. Paul's like, there's technology. We will use it gladly. We will write letters. And yet we will have this intense longing to be with you. Luke, who writes the book of Acts for us, says this about a time when he and Paul and a group of people were traveling. It says, "There we found some brothers and sisters who invited us to spend a week with them. And so we came to Rome. The brothers and sisters there had heard that we were coming, and they traveled as far as the Forum of Appius and the 3 taverns to meet us. At the sight of these people, Paul thanked God and was encouraged." So Luke and Paul and their band of people are traveling to this city. And when the people in the city hear that they're on their way, they travel. And we believe that they traveled some 30 miles to go out and greet Paul and Luke and the other people traveling with them and welcome them into the city with no agenda. They had no reason to do this other than, we just want to be with you. And we can't wait till we get to be with you. And the end result for Paul is that he thanked God and he was encouraged. Technology, good. We'll use the letters, we'll write things, we'll send those off, but there's still this intense longing and this value of being physically present. One of the first sermons that I ever preached was on this tiny little book, 2 John. And I thought this is a great topic because it's only one chapter, and I can just preach on this one chapter. I'll just learn all about the book and I'll figure out how to preach this one book. And one of the major themes in this little book is the importance of incarnation, the importance of being physically present, and that God in Jesus was physically present with us, that God took on flesh. This is one of the major themes in the book. And so Paul writes, we're not really sure who he's writing to, other than that he's writing to a woman who may have been an elder or a leader of some sort. He's writing to this family. And this is one of the themes that he's expressing to her. He's like, don't let anybody trick you into thinking that Jesus didn't actually come in the flesh. So that's what we're going to read now. It says, "And now, dear lady, I'm not writing you a new command, but one we've had from the beginning. I ask that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk in obedience to his commands. As you have heard from the beginning, his command is that you walk in love. I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the antichrist." Whew. He's very serious here. Have I been saying Paul, by the way? It's John. John wrote this. I keep doing that. I keep saying Paul, John. John wrote 2 John. Okay. He writes this little letter. There's people that are going around saying Jesus didn't come in the flesh. And he's like, those people are deceivers and antichrists. And look, he keeps going on and on about how important this is. Watch out that you don't lose what we've worked for. The truth that Jesus was God in the flesh. Don't lose that truth, but that you may be rewarded fully. Anyone who runs ahead and is like making up new ideas and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house or welcome them, which I think is interesting. If they're teaching that God didn't come in the flesh, then don't let their flesh inside your house. Kind of an interesting little idea. Anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked work. Is John a little bit concerned with people that may not have believed that God actually physically came? He's extremely concerned with this dangerous idea that would deny the incarnation. And then look at what he says, one of the last verses of the book. So he talks about how important it is. God didn't just send a letter. God didn't just show up as some spirit. God physically came. And then look at what he says. I have much to write to you, but I don't want to use paper and ink. I have much to communicate to you, but I don't want to just use the technology that I have. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete. There's things I want to communicate to you. I've put as many of them as I can in this letter, but there's other things that I can only communicate to you when we're face to face. And when that happens, our joy will be complete because we will be able to experience the ultimate in human relationship, which only happens when we are physically present with one another. Decision number 2, do you actually believe that physical presence is the ultimate? Again, let me say it one more time. Technology is good. It's so cool that you can join us online right now, whether live or watching later. These are good things. But the ultimate is that we would be physically together. Do you actually believe that? Because if you don't, then you'll be missing a key part of relationship and of friendship. And you'll be missing out on what John writes as like our joy being complete. I had a theology prof that always used to say it this way. He's like, the world will talk about how we have bodies. And basically talk about us as though we are avatars. Like we are either a brain in a body and we're our brain, or we're a spirit in a body. And he used to always talk about, this was the course called the Theology of the Human Person. He's like, you don't have a body. What it means to be human is that you are a body. You are a body. It's a fundamental shift in how you think about yourself. But if I am a body, then it matters what my body does. It matters what I do with my body. It matters what I bring my body in proximity to. My senses, actually, there's this mystery. When my senses like pick up parts of you and your senses pick up parts of me and we're physically together. It's an interesting shift. Just take that home with you. Think, what is the difference between having a body and being a body? I think there's something within that question that gets us to the importance of being physically present with one another. Decision number 3. Do you believe that to have real friends, you have to be vulnerable? You have to be willing to open up and share what's broken within you. Share the worries that you have, the stresses that you have. The only way to really get to know other people is like somebody's got to go first and be vulnerable. And I think even this we can learn from the life of Jesus. On the night before he was betrayed in John chapters 13, 14, 15, he's sharing all these things with his disciples. Some of them are repetition. Some of them seem to be new things that he's never shared with them before. And near the end of this farewell discourse, it's called, he says this: greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So he's tipping them off to like, guys, this is what I'm gonna do for you. And there's no way that I could love you more than what you're gonna see me go and do, which is die on the cross for you. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I've made known to you. This is the verse that I wanted to focus on because it seems as though a shift is happening on this evening. As Jesus opens up and is vulnerable, there's a shift that's happening where he's no longer calling these guys his servants, but he's gonna call them his friends. It's like up until this point, they had just had like a working relationship. And up until this point, Jesus hadn't revealed everything, but at this point, he's told them everything that he learned from his Father. He's made known to them. He's been completely open and told them everything. And at this point, he says, now, because I've been vulnerable with you, I call you my friends. It's interesting. I think we can learn from Jesus that what it means to have deep friendships is to be vulnerable with one another. Are you vulnerable? Can you think of people in your life that when you're struggling, you open up to them? I think vulnerability can actually be the invitation for other people to be your friend. You ever hang out with someone and you really want to be their friend, but you're not really sure if they want to be your friend? You know that dicey situation? It's similar to dating, but it's not, because you're not planning on dating them. You just want to be friends. And so you're with them and you're like, I think this person is really cool, but I don't think they think I'm as cool as I think they are. And I'd really like us to be friends. And how do you know like when you cross that bridge? And I think one of the ways to cross that bridge is vulnerability. I had this happen with a friend of mine. I thought I really wanted to be his friend, and I didn't really think that he wanted to be my friend. And then one day when we were hanging out together, he told me something really vulnerable. He said, I've actually been feeling really lonely lately. And I remember thinking like, well, that's weird. We're two dudes hanging out and you say you're lonely. I didn't know that we do this. Us guys sharing feelings and stuff. This feels odd. But after that thought, I realized he wants to be my friend. Like he sees us as friends, and so he's being vulnerable. This is an invitation for me to step into a deeper friendship with him. And I'll always remember that as the moment where I realized, oh, we actually are friends. We don't just hang out sometimes because our wives are friends. And so if you want to have deep friendships, maybe that's the step that you have to take, is to be vulnerable with someone else. And they might say no. They might be like, oh, that's cool, bro, you're lonely. Stay lonely. Like, I can't guarantee what the outcome is gonna be, but I know that without the vulnerability, you'll never go deeper in the friendship. And so maybe that's the step that you need to take, but you have to actually believe that vulnerability is key to building deeper friendships. And so those are 3 decisions that I think you have to make as we go on in this journey of friendship. And next week, we're gonna talk about how to be a good friend and how to build great friendships even more. But I think those are 3 great starting places. And when I thought about this series and I thought about, we're gonna spend some time in the summer, at the beginning of the summer, talking about friendship, I think that this is an important series. One, because we're coming out of COVID and all the weirdness that has happened during COVID and human relationships. And now we have a summer, like the first summer where we can be together again. And I thought maybe we could give some people some ideas so they could focus on their friendships this summer. Maybe we could reignite a longing for friendship within you. Maybe give you a fresh vision for friendship. I think about my vision for friendship often when I think about my 2 boys. I have 2 boys and a little girl, and I often leave the little girl out of illustrations because she's still so young. So Rain, if you're watching this in the future, we love you, but you just aren't as interesting yet. So, but my 2 boys are 8 and 7. And one of the visions I've always had for them is that they would be great friends. And I've always longed for like them to be great friends who take care of each other. And so when there's moments when they're, it's not all perfect. Like they do still punch each other and whatnot and strangle each other. But when there's the brief moments where I see their friendship, I'm so happy. It brings me so much joy. This past weekend, I saw them. We went to grandma's house, and there was less things for them to do. But one of the things they could do was share an iPad. And so they're sharing this iPad, and they're playing a game together where you have to drive this car, and there's only 2 buttons, a brake and a gas. And they were sharing. So one was on the brake, and one was on the gas. And they're playing this game together, and they're having so much fun. They're laughing, and when the car flips over, and the guy's neck cracks, and they're like, it's so funny. I'm like, oh, it's a little morbid, but okay, I'm glad. Friendship, building a friendship, it's good. And I remember I was watching, and I'm like, I think there's a chance these guys might be friends. And then Elijah's birthday's coming up. Elijah's the oldest, so he got a new remote control car. And it brought me so much joy when so quickly upon getting this car working, he handed the remote to his little brother so that he could have a turn. Unprompted by adults. They were actually outside, just the 2 of them. So there was no like brownie points to be earned. There was no pressure like, hey, you better share with your brother. There was only, from what I could see, I want my brother to experience this. Maybe because my brother's my friend, maybe because I love my brother. It brought me so much joy. I love to see them smile. I love to see the confidence that it gives them when they're together. Last night there was fireworks in our neighborhood, and I was able to snap this picture. And I know, I just have to be honest, we did ask for them to pose for this picture. You have to be honest, right? But I'll say, it didn't take a lot of coercion to get this picture. And they stayed in this pose for way longer than they needed to. But this is my vision for my boys, and for you, Rain, but that they would be friends. And that they would have each other as they go through life. And that as real life hits them, that the power of their friendship would help them. It would give them confidence. It would remind them about how much God loves them, that they would remind each other of the forgiveness available to them through Jesus. That as they're thinking about what should we do with our lives and what should we create in the world, that they would have each other to discern that together. And as much as I want that for my boys, I want that for each one of you, as much as I want that for myself. And so I hope that as we go through this series, that you'll find ideas that you can apply to the friendships that you have in your life. And that as we go through this series, you will rediscover the simple and yet beautiful gift of friendship. Would you pray with me before we go? God, you teach us that it is not good for us to be alone. Would you impress that on our hearts? Would you reveal to us all the ways that we are convincing ourselves daily that we could actually be alone? We could do it. We could do it. We just need a little bit of human interaction. And God, would you give us a fresh vision for friendship and awaken a longing for friends within us? And God, I pray for anybody who feels like, I would love to have some friends, I don't know where to find them, that God, you would show them, that you would knit some people together, that there would be chance encounters in this building, in this space, where people would start up some beautiful friendships, where they'd experience love and caring and be able to become a reflection of your love and care for the world. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.